Hey guys, this is Russ and Ashley, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. And today we're talking about, is free will an illusion or not?
Yeah, our lives are pretty much made up of choices like what are we going to eat, what type of job we're going to have, our friends, our romantic partners, our plans for the weekend. But the question is when we choose one thing over another, like what's really happening, what's at play? Are we operating off of what we know to be free will, or have we been influenced somehow? So defining free will is pretty much the ability to choose freely between options, independent of any external or internal forces.
Okay.
It makes me when I was thinking about this topic, it made me reflect on I think it was like an episode of 60 Minutes or something like that, but it was basically meant to like talk about kind of this question, how influenced are we in our decision making? And so they had people come into a company to create an advertisement for a taxidermy business,
Mhm.
basically. And on the way there, on the way to the meeting, they took them along to like they drove them along the route. And along the route there were like different like I guess subliminal messages, like different little things like a bear and a gate, like all these different things.
Mhm.
So by the time people got to their appointment and they're like, all right, create this ad, they created this ad of like a bear in heaven at the gates or some random something like that.
Mhm.
But like everybody came up with very close to what they were trying to like influence them to create.
Yeah.
So, of course, people are getting there thinking, like, I have this great idea, not realizing that they had been being pushed messaging that entire day up until that appointment. And they pretty much created an image that was dangerously close to like what they're trying to. So I think about that a lot, actually. Like just like how many things are influencing our decision making on a daily basis. Unfortunately, in our world, our society, based off of just like marketing, just to make us buy shit, it's like really annoying, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned this in a couple episodes back. Last year, I particularly got really interested in reading up on propaganda and how
Mm,
propaganda is used against us. And we talked about this in other episodes of like how good American propaganda has been over
mhm.
time. Like how in the 80s, like you used to see a lot of TV shows about like how Russia's the bad guy. And there would be like episodes of Golden Girl where she had like a cousin visit for Russia and they're like, America has choices and look at all the different types of potatoes you can buy. And it was just like really weird stuff. And so like you have this like theme of like America, we're the good guys, we're the great ones, blah, blah, blah. And then like us waking up like 5 years ago and be like, the rest of the world hates us. What?
Mm,
What do you
mm,
mean they think we're the bad guys?
mm.
But I've been reading a lot of books on like how propaganda works. And so last year was really interesting to me because I really like picked up on how I see it interplay in my regular life. Sometimes just talking to folks, and then you realize how like, hey, when I first met you, this is what you believe. And now you believe in this thing that's totally against your own personal interest. That's
Mhm.
interesting. You don't realize this is against your interest. And sometimes it's big things. Like, of course, we're seeing that a lot politically right now. But sometimes it's like little things. Sometimes it's like little things that you're like, hey, you're very feminist and you're very pro women rights. So you know this thing, this idea that you're like flirting with is kind of actually like degrading a woman. It's actually kind of like actually kind of going against, but they put it as really pretty package. So you don't really understand that it's kind of the opposite of what you've always kind of believed in. And kind of like you said, once you kind of notice how those things work, it's really hard to stop thinking about it. It's really hard to kind of go back to being like, no, everything I believe is because of my own free will. And I'm such a free thinker. And I'm such a, it's like, even as free thinkers, there's certain things that have impressed upon us. Um, and like you said, it makes you wonder, do I really have free will? Or am I just a product of all the things that I have seen and that has been impressed upon me? And so no matter what I do, a part of me was always going to kind of turn out this way. A part of me was always kind of going to end up here, regardless of how much choices I think I have and how much I think I've been a part of this decision. Was I really a part of this decision?
Yeah, this also, like, I think brings us into the nature nurture
Mhm.
conversation. Like, how much is, like, encoded in our DNA and how much were we, like, nurtured to be a certain person in a certain way, just kind of following what we've been given.
Mhm.
How often does that influence us? Like, did you always want to be a doctor? Or, like, I think about, um, I had, so I was fortunate to be able to take psychology in high school,
Mhm.
which I feel like needs to be a thing because it was just like basic 101. It kind of just gave like a overview. I feel like everybody needs to do that. You shouldn't have to go to college to understand like basic brain stuff. But anyway, I remember teachers talking about like positive reinforcement with his kids and how
Mhm.
like he didn't want them to play like football because it's not a sport that you can really like carry on lifelong.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the way that you influence it. So like if they pick up a football, like you don't like discourage it, but you're not as excited. It's just like, oh, cool, you did that. But like if they kick a soccer ball, you're like, oh my God, wow. Like just really like hamming it up.
Yeah.
So you're influencing your child to be like, you know, because obviously they want that from you. Like they want um that positive reinforcement, that encouragement, and all that stuff. So it's like you withhold it from the things that you don't like them doing, and then you know celebrate when they do something you really want them to do. And so in a way, like yeah, if you come out and you end up playing soccer, like was that actually your choice? Is that what you would have done if there was no other like influence on that decision from the nurturing? I should say. You might think, well, I'm really you know, fast and I just kick really well. And that's why I became a soccer player because it's just written in my blood to be this way. And it's like, or your mom didn't want you rocking your brain playing football. Cause I know I'm gonna use
Yeah.
positive reinforcement to make sure my son will play no thing that's gonna have his brains rocked. I'm not interested.
I mean, yeah, but some of it's just like some of it's just kind of programming. There's a reason we all have these shared experiences and we all have these shared feelings, and there's like an inside joke that like no matter if you are a black person who grew up in the South in the 80s versus a black girl who grew up around mostly white people in New York, well, not New York, but in like Minnesota, that if I say Pookie, you know what type of person I'm referring to. There's certain shared experience, and it's like you have to take like, yeah, because we have certain social things happening. Again, nature versus nurture. Yeah, we some of this stuff is individual to us, but there's so many big things I think have these lasting impacts on us that it does kind you can't escape certain fates, I guess is where I'm going with this. I do think there are certain individualistic things that kind of give us a tweak. But I'm a personally believer, but also it isn't the way my life worked out. It feels like I can't escape certain fates. There's certain things that it's like, it don't matter which door I picked,
Mm-hmm.
that rabbit was always going to be behind the door.
That's very real. That's a thing too. The red, what is the red thread of destiny? Is destiny just guiding you along to what you were always meant to be? A social worker.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I just made it to the point in my social work career where like I'm making money, but like I think about it all the time. Like my parents really could have had me be the next super villain. Like they really was like, we gonna get you in private schools, we gonna get you in Jack and Jill Club, we gonna get you next to ah, you're gonna do this. And I was just like, people should afford water and food. Let me go figure that out. I was like, you don't want to be a scientist? We're gonna have you sit in with the diplomat's daughters. I'm like, yeah, I want to go figure out why
But
why
was
they
that
can't afford their medicine.
was that your free will? But no, I feel you. Like yeah. I think of it in a sense. I know even with my own career, like I want to say like yes, I chose social work, and everyone was like, "You don't want to go make money." you should go make money. And I was like, I want to help the people. Money doesn't matter. No. Um, and I want to feel like that was my own free will. However, even within me exercising my free will and like choosing this field, it seems like there's just certain things, like you said earlier, like that I just can't get away from. So,
Mhm.
like my inclination to want to work with youth, like even when I took a whole detour route, work for the court system, so it at the end of it, I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be working with you.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm supposed to be working with kids. I think that's my thing. And in some capacity, like even my job before that, I remember being like, I'm gonna work with grown-ups. I'm gonna get a grown-up job and I'm gonna work with adults. I'm not gonna be no after school, whatever, no more. And the job I had was like, yeah, you can work with parents. And
Yeah.
and I was like, bet, no problem.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of just cycled me. So it feels like, yeah, like that hand of destiny or fate or whatever that's like, nope, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is where you're supposed to be
Yeah.
at. This is where your impact is. Even now, like where I work now, like I'm still influencing the lives of youth, even though I wasn't at the time. I just had to leave where I'm at.
Mhm.
So you have those things where it's like, where it feels like every time you try to step out, you get like slapped back
Yeah.
to like the thing you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah. I mean,
supposed to be.
definitely.
And I also believe, and there's definitely something to be said about. I think there's times too where you can feel yourself going against, and so to speak, or against whatever it is. Like I personally feel like I felt that. Like
Mhm.
there's times where it's like, damn, every door is shut. Like every path, I'm trying to go this way, and like
Right.
everything in the way, everything is blocking me. But if I go this way, doors are just opening.
Or
Windows is flying, things are tumbling in, offers are dropping in my lap. I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing over here.
look, yeah, yeah. Me and you have talked about this before because the universe is so much nicer to you. Like the universe babies you and coddles you into stuff. And just like, wait, look at this window. And the universe is so mean to me. The universe bullies me into everything. And I'm just
It's
like,
hard headed.
no, it's not because I'm even the stuff I'm not being hard headed about. The universe just like, by the way, you are ruled by Saturn. So we are gonna push you over here and it's gonna be hard. But I think the same thing about my job. I actually recently I have an uncle who I didn't meet until I was like a lot older.
Mhm,
And because we, this is an uncle that is like different mom type situation. So for so family to know them for a while. Anyways, with that being said, I've only met them like 3 times in my life. And one time they met me, I was like 13. And
mhm,
when I ran into them again, like my mom had told him, like, oh yeah, she's a therapist. And he's like, you always knew you was gonna be a therapist. I was like, no, the fuck I didn't. Like, what do you mean? And he was like, no, I remember back then. I'm like, I don't remember this. I don't ever remember like social work-ish stuff. Yeah. Therapy. He's like,
mhm,
no, I remember specifically therapy. And like he was like having this conversation with me, and I was like, no, I don't recall that.
mhm,
But I have reoccurring things kind of like you with that with therapy. Where matter of fact, I remember one time me and my friend Ray, I love Ray so much. Me and my friend Ray,
mhm,
we hadn't seen each other for a while. We used to work together at the public defender's office. And so we hadn't seen each other for a while. We used to get lunch all the time. So we are like, oh, let's get lunch. And he was like, oh, I found out there was like a psychic fair. We're like, oh yeah, let's go to the psychic fair. It'll be fun.
mhm,
So we went to the psychic fair, and like me and him were both, I let him pick the people because they all had like descriptions, and you got like
mhm,
tokens to go to like 3 different people with your ticket.
mhm,
And so we're like, oh, okay, the lunch place that we wanted to go to, we had an hour to kill. So we're like, all right, cool. So I was like, Ray, you pick the people. He was like, okay, he picked the people. Let me tell you, I had 3 people just straight up in my face, like, yeah, you're supposed to be doing healing work. And I was like, I don't want to do healing work. And I left there so mad because I was like, yeah, and I want to do creative stuff and I want to blah, blah, blah. And they're like, nah. Well, then the last person we went to was like an astrologer. And they're like, it is meant in your chart for you to do healing work with folks. And I don't know if you remember this, but I went through a period where I resented therapy. I
mhm.
resented being a therapist. I
You out of
resented.
that period?
No, I'm still there, but the people don't even know that. I'm still doing it, so I don't have to really get into the talk. Like I really, really resented it and I hated it, and I was getting rewarded for it. Oh my gosh, I was doing therapy on this platform. They told me I was like top 10 in the state. I was getting rewards. I was getting like all types of stuff. And I was just like, I fucking hate this shit. I hate this shit. I hate this shit with a passion. I don't want to do this anymore. And I
Mhm.
just kept being rerouted. I just kept being, and I finally was just like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I guess I'm
Mhm.
not meant to be the next Britney Spears,
Mhm.
whatever. It's about my dreams, my creativity. Um, and not to say that you'll hate stuff forever. Apparently, you'll eventually get to it. I guess you'll eventually fall back in love. But I say that to say, like, I also had experience where I like was trying to run from certain things. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Everything in my life was just like, yep, this is what you're doing. And then you have to do that forever.
Mhm.
But Lord, no, there was a period that I was just like, every single door I opened, it was just like, oh, I can easily get into this. I can easily. And it was just like, nah. I once applied to a job for something completely different, got on an interview, and they're like, oh, you're applying for our lead therapist. And I was like, no, no, I'm not. They're like, well, we looked at your resume and we think you would be good. And I was like, I really want this other position. And they're like, okay, all right. And then they offered me the job for the lead therapist.
Mhm.
So, yes, going back to free will, I'm a huge believer in like the red string theory. I'm a huge believer in, you only have so many choices. We talked about this, I think, on the Destiny and Fate episode, where like some things are destined, some things are more fate. And I believe I
Mhm.
can't remember the difference, but I know the difference was something like one is more so like there's a like category of options for you. They're
Mhm.
kind of clustered, and it's like, but you can choose one of these options. And
Mhm.
one of it was like, no, you have to go to this line. Like, and every time you try to get out this line, guess what? You're gonna get rerouted back to this line. You only have this option. And I do sometimes wonder if it's different for different folks. If some of us have like, no, you are destined. This is your door. There's no other
Mhm.
doors.
Mhm.
And it goes back because I'm personally a believer in like reincarnation. And I do wonder if like with the thought of reincarnation, I do sometimes wonder if like some of us are here on our vacation lives. We're just fucking around. Like they're like, I don't care. I don't care what you do. Have fun. Here are some
What you do
options
is
of the things that you can
inconsequential.
do. Huh?
Yeah. I
And
said it's
then
like what you do here is inconsequential.
yeah,
Really is.
yeah, like here, there's some things from your past life you can work out. Here are 5 options. And then there's some of us that they're just like, nah, this is your last chance. I'm gonna need you to get it together, or you're gonna be a goat next time. Like I do wonder if there's
Mhm.
like just a situation where that's at least how it feels for me at times, where it's just like,
Go.
yeah, I feel like I'm very
Mhm.
much on a no. I don't know what I did. They're like,
Mhm.
gotta do this thing. But I have other people in my life where I'm like, I feel like they fucking around. And it's just fine. I feel like they're just having the time of their life. And the
Mhm.
universe is just like, yeah, you want to be an
Mhm.
astronaut? Sure. Sure. You can be an astronaut. And then you can
It
be a
could
model.
it could also be that just certain areas of their life that are like where for you it feels like, oh, like career-wise, I'm supposed to be over here. And maybe their career is just not that thing this lifetime. Maybe in
This is
some
true.
other like they're meant to have a particular partner and a kid or they're meant, like maybe they're meant to do something somewhere else. It's just not as obvious.
I mean, yeah. I'm not saying that their stuff is like purposeless, but I'm just saying like
Yeah.
they get more
I'm
options.
not saying that, oh,
But
they get more options. Gotcha.
they get more
Yeah.
options, I guess is my
Right.
point. I do think there are some people where, yeah, you get more.
You make me think about I think, was it the last time I had my chart? It's been a while since I've like had any type of reading anything because you're always telling me like if you're enjoying your life, like don't don't ruin it by getting a reading. um,
Again, that just might be how my life works. Like, if I'm happy, like, yo,
so
you
it's
got
been a
5 more months
while.
of happiness, and now I have 5 months of thinking about how I got 5 months of happiness. Don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's been a while, but I think about how I had a birth chart reading, and she was like, "Oh, you have like two options for a partner."
Mm-hmm.
And like one, if you go one route, you're gonna end up married twice because you're gonna end up divorcing this person. If you go this other route, it'll be fine and you'll stay with them and whatever, whatever. And like, how the fuck is that a choice?
Girl, girl,
Like, like, oh, like that doesn't feel like an option to me. Like,
word.
how how is that an actual option where it's like on one route you get temporary happiness? And then despair that leads to divorce. Because who the hell knows what types of things would happen that would lead to that
Yeah.
divorce. And
Yeah.
then on this other route, happiness. Happiness for life. Like that's like when people are like try to give choice to kids and it's like either do what I say or
Yeah.
do what I say.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that ain't either listen or I will hit you. Well, I don't feel like I really have a choice in the matter.
Like happiness, one is just happiness with a pause, and then it's resumed happiness elsewhere. It
No.
seems like, look, you get readings and they be like, love, relation, life, mind. They be like, let me talk about your work. Let me talk about this work. And I'd be like, love. And they're
I've
like,
had those too.
the niggas will come. Okay, don't worry about them. You got
Girl.
stuff to do. At
I've
least
had
you
those
get
too.
happiness in like family and stuff. And mine is just always like, you got things to do, girl. Like,
I mean, I've had those too.
and the picket fence. I'm like, nah. You had that too many times. This is what we doing this time.
Um, okay, so let me ask you, has there ever been have you ever had a moment where you paused and was like, oh wait, I have free will, and then like did something, like acted upon it, even if it's something silly or small?
Like I'm always doing something silly or small, but like I feel like again, it just reroutes me back to, um, yeah, because I'm thinking like in the year 2022, I was just like, I am tired. Like I just feel like all I do is work. All I do is plot and this and that, and this is gonna be like my carefree year. And all it did is reroute me back to like, yeah, so I gotta buckle down 2023. Like, so I made friends with people I would normally not make friends with. I went out, I traveled more, I did certain things. But again, it was just rerouting. It's like, what is that movie? It's like a time travel movie, but there's a point in the movie. It's some white people. That doesn't help. It would help if it was black. It's not a lot of black time traveling movies, but like it was like it got to a point in a movie where they try to go past a certain point, and it
Mhm.
just kept rewinding them back to the same part.
Mhm.
Anyways, that's what 22 felt like me, where I was just like, oh, I'm gonna travel more. I'm not gonna take this so seriously. Money will
Mhm.
be there, work will be there. And I kept doing things, and it just felt like I kept going back in the loop of like, go back, take your ass back to work. Take your ass
Mhm.
back to being serious. Take your ass back to be blah blah blah. I can't pinpoint exact things, but again, I'm thinking about like a friendship I had with a particular person where I was just like, oh, this is new, this is interesting. They're opening my mind to different things. And I was like, oh, and I remember they wanted to travel together to certain places and introduce me to certain people, all these things. And it just came to like this moment where it was just like a little birdie kept dropping things in my lap, where it's just like I
Mhm.
kept noticing things. And it was just like, hey, you can't, this is a bad idea. Hey, and
Mhm.
I kept trying to push past it, and just more and more things kept happening for me to be like, yo, this is like,
Mhm.
we're not gonna let this like, and I remember there actually, matter of fact, there was a person I was dating around this time too, who, and this is bad, guys, don't do this. But have you ever just been like, I mean, this isn't gonna last, but like, I ain't do nothing for the next 3 months. Like, you're just
Yeah,
like, this will be fun. This
absolutely.
will be fun. And when I tell you the universe in every way was just like, no, no, we
No.
need to get this person out your life ASAP. Like the way random things kept dropping in, like, and I'm telling you, I
Mhm.
love researching, but I was not researching on anything on this person. Literally,
Mm.
things were falling into my lap.
Mm.
Literally, information was falling into my
Like,
things
I
that
just
was
want to ignore these things and have fun. And the universe is
really,
like, red flag. Here's another red flag. You just gonna ignore these red flags?
girl, red flags, red lights, red poles. Like it was so bad to the point that like they up and disappeared. Like they really, like they had to be the one to up and disappear. Like literally, they got called to go to a different country, and I was just like, all right, well.
Mhm.
But yeah,
There you
so
go.
I will say 22 felt like that for me, where it was just I was trying my hardest to beat the algorithm of life, and it was just like, girl, no, no, you're gonna keep restarting at the same point. I really
Mhm.
wish I had examples that I felt comfortable enough to share. I do have an example, but I feel like it would be too pinpoint. And I don't know if you have had this happening, maybe because you're in North Carolina, but me, Unique, and Gabby have all had people for our personal life. Like, you're on a podcast. I be listening to you. I be following you.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, no, mm-mm.
girl. Ohio, apparently everybody I went to college with knows we have a podcast.
Oh,
So
that's
I feel
lovely.
uncomfortable sharing certain things. I just there's certain things I'm just like, no, let's not start the conversation offline. What about you though?
Um, yeah, not in that major way because free will just definitely is something I think about that much. That's why I was saying like, oh, maybe in small ways, like, and literally the only thing I could really think of was like, it's silly. Was when I realized that like, and because I owned my home, that I could move things where I
Mhm.
wanted them. Like, I remember I bought a particular shower curtain and I really liked it, and I was like, oh no, it's too long. And then I was like, actually, you can raise the bar.
I love it.
You don't need any permission. You can just lift it up and use your shower curtain. And I was like, oh my God. Cool. I'll do that. Or like silly stuff where it's like, I want ice cream now. No, I haven't had dinner. I don't care. I guess it's more of a I'm a grown up
Okay, you
and
have those.
I get to do what I want to do, and I want to eat a cookie before I eat my dinner.
Maybe this is where when you talk about me being hard headed goes in, and mine are so big because mine just I just radically be like, I'm gonna move out the country.
Mm.
Like, girl, no, no, you're not.
Mhm.
Actually, you're gonna
Mhm.
stay right here.
Mhm. I've never had those moments, not out the country, but of like, oh, I'm gonna move and change my life or whatever. But I don't know. Those moments didn't even feel like I wasn't having like a it's my will. It was like a feels like definitely at the end of the road here. Guess
Yeah,
I need to figure out what the next thing is, like
yeah,
that type of deal. And it still felt like a particular the way things worked out when I got there
yeah.
is what made me feel like it wasn't necessarily it couldn't have gone any other way. Like
Okay.
it wasn't really I might have thought I was making that choice. Even my decision to move to Charleston, like, yeah, it was my choice. I guess I picked it, but also, was it? Like, I just think about even the very first time I went here, it was and the funny thing is, ever since then, I don't never hear people say, "Oh, I'm going on vacation to Charleston." But I am telling you, at that point in my life, people kept being like, "Oh yeah, I just went to Charleston." And I was like, "Charleston? What's in Charleston? Why y'all vacationing there? What's going on?" And I was like, "I want to go and see what's up.
Yeah.
What's there?" And that was like my first ever like solo trip where I just went to a place because I just felt like it.
Mhm.
And and I was like, I could live here one day if for some reason I needed to move. I could
Mhm.
live here. And it kind of just became a place where I like recurringly coming back. Yeah, I think maybe one time in Charleston. And he was like I swear, after that trip, everybody was like, Charleston, why would you be? What's going on? And I'm like, people go there. Like, what do you mean? Like, it
Yeah.
was a thing. I swear, people were like, and of course,
It
now
was
I
a
live
thing
here.
only
Yeah,
for you. Because I remember when you told us, we were like, girl, Charleston. And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, have you been? You're like, I went on vacation. I was like, okay, okay.
I'm like,
I
I've
didn't
been
even
there
remember you
several
going.
times. I vacationed here several times prior to coming. Or even people tell me, there's no color in Charleston. I'm like, no color in Charleston? That doesn't sound right. That's not what I've experienced.
To be fair,
Now,
it took you a while to find the color.
they hiding. They
They
are
hide it,
hiding.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
they're here. They
Okay.
just not walking down King Street, but they here. And so, but yeah, but it's just so, but so I said to say like on the back end, it doesn't feel like it feels like it was supposed to be that way. And I was supposed to get this one stupid job that I hated that led to another job that I hated that just
Your lily patty.
combined. Huh?
Your lily patty.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
As I was told would happen.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's kind of what I'm talking about though. Cause I feel
Hmm.
like, again, even with me, that's what I mean. Like, if it's something I'm not supposed to, everything will
Hmm.
block it. But then if it's something I'm supposed to, kind of like you talked about with Charleston, I'll just start having these little things that just line
Hmm.
up. And it's not that I'm purposely looking for them. It's not purposely like I
Hmm.
moved to Oklahoma on a whim, which was horrible. But I did need to move there for it really started. Like I ended up in forensics for like 8 years because I moved to Oklahoma on a whim. I applied to this mass job at this like nonprofit job, and they had like
Mhm.
20 jobs available. And they had us in this big room, and they were like, check the boxes. I didn't even check the box for that, but I worked at defects, which I was the only person that worked at anything that was somewhat court related. And they're like, oh, we got this woman in prisons program.
Mhm.
You work with women in prison. I was like, I mean, technically, some of the
Mhm.
parents. And they're like, boom. And that started me working with inmates for like 8 years.
Mhm.
And so, kind of like you said, but it's like little, but it's same thing. I decided to go to Oklahoma on a whim. I was like, I'm tired of Cincinnati. I'm tired of Ohio. And then randomly, I had family that had moved there, also randomly. And they were like, hey, we need help with this. And I was like, oh, okay, I can go here for a couple months. Same thing with Atlanta. I was just like, oh, me and Neek had talked about moving to Atlanta for forever.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I should go to grad school because I'm unhappy here. Got accepted to the schools I applied to in Atlanta. Got accepted to, matter of fact, got that's how it happened. That's how me
Mhm.
and Gabby met each other. I got accepted to Howard. Howard is where I really wanted to go, but they was playing games with money. And nobody
Mhm.
had warned me about HBCUs with money. I didn't know.
Mhm.
And I don't like funny business. If you want to figure out a way to get me out your way, start messing with my money.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, I had already paid for my seat. It was the only school that made me pay for a seat. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Mhm.
Paid for my seat, met Gabby, which is great. Me and Gabby are still friends now because we were supposed to be roommates. And then like ended up back in Atlanta. It was just like, oh, okay. I guess literally the other
Mhm.
schools had already gone away from a school I went to. They're like, oh yeah, we still got a seat. So kind of like you said, just things kind of work out where you're like, oh, and it's easy and there's not a lot of resistance. But when it's kind of I want to do that free will thing where I'm like, no, I'm going to Howard. It was just like boom, like literally, y'all. All the professors in the universe for the School of Social Work were at a conference at the same time, and I couldn't get in touch with nobody for like 2 weeks. And I was like, y'all want me to move across the country? Y'all want me to put down a deposit on a lease that I can't talk to nobody? School starts in a couple of weeks, and like I don't know, I didn't know when the states start. They had lost some of my paperwork. Nobody was getting
Mhm.
back to me. There was some funny business going on with my financial aid. So they were just like, yeah, you got to get this money by yourself, blah, blah, blah. Hit up a school I denied. They're like, yeah, we got a spot available. Yeah, we got all your paperwork. Financial aid's great.
Mhm.
They found me housing. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think, yeah, going back to that like free will, I think that is exactly that. Okay, the case against free will
It's
is it really free will if
yeah.
things keep lining up to point you in that direction?
Yeah. I I think that I don't think it's a real thing. I don't I mean, I'd like to think that it is, but also it brings me to the question of why does it matter? Like why do we need to feel like we have free will?
I think feeling like there's an opportunity that I think hope. I think
Mm,
free will gives you hope, the idea that there's a chance things can go a different way. I think it's the same with religion. I'm not gonna get in it. I know I'm unlikable when I talk about religion, but like it's to me it's the same thing. Religion. If I have a hope that things can be different, then that's important to me.
mhm,
That gives me the will to keep going. That gives me the will because I don't like how things are. If it feels like things are pre-programmed, then
mhm,
what's the point of me trying? Because what if I don't agree with the program?
mhm, mhm, mhm. That's fair. Yeah. Mhm. And then too, I mean, yeah. I'm thinking about because we're talking about like life decisions, things like that. But now I'm thinking about like when people do bad stuff
Mhm,
or like harmful things.
mhm.
And it's like, are they operating off free will? Or is there some hand of destiny? It's like, nope, that person was meant to. I'm not even gonna say that because it just sounds heinous and crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, is it exercising free will when you go rob a bank? Or you steal something, or, whatever is that you exercising your free will.
Yeah.
I would say probably. I don't know because I don't know why the universe would want you to do that. Is it nature versus nurture? Your struggles is so real that the only way you know how to survive is by scheming and plotting.
Well,
So
and I
then are
think
you
go ahead.
so then are you actually operating off of free will or is that just your You're nurturing? Is it your nature? Do you come from a family of scammers? And so now you are a scammer.
Well, and I think that's where it gets tricky, and that's where you wanna believe in free will because why would the if because we wanna believe the universe is good, and I
Mhm.
am a believer that the universe is neither good nor bad. I don't believe in
Mhm.
things being 100% good, 100% bad. I think that limits our thinking. And then
Mhm.
that puts us in a lot
Mhm.
of cognitive dissonance type situations because if the universe is
Mhm.
good, why would the universe let this happen? And
Mhm.
if the universe is good and it does give us free will, then and it knows free will is bad, then why would it just puts us in real tricky thought exercises.
Mhm.
But I do think that is where it kind of get tricky for me because it's kind of like not even thinking of I think of both the big things and the little things. So like, was that man destined to cheat on you? Was that man destined to play with your heart? Did the universe, like, literally send him into his was he supposed to be a horrible human being to all women, and then him just still keep getting by and getting lucky? Is that what the you like? When you think about stuff you like that, you be like, why would the universe make that a thing?" But then you think about the big things, people who do really mass casual, horrific things.
Mhm.
And to say that that was predestined, and you
Mhm.
can have some arguments, well, like, if that doesn't happen, then this thing will never happen, and this thing needs to happen to evolve human society, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
But on
Mhm.
the same side, it's like, if this whole thing is programmed, could it not have done it in a more peaceful way? Why wouldn't you just program
Sometimes.
yourself to do it in a more peaceful? It gets
Mhm.
real, real tricky.
Mhm. Mhm. But I feel like that's the conundrum for real. Like when you really sit, like those are the areas that make you really be like, okay, it's the thing. Because I mean, I, I agree with you in that the universe is neither good nor bad. And if I believe that there's a grand plan
Yeah.
for everything, then I would say like it makes me think that that plan does not necessarily care so much about individuals.
Mhm.
It again, and I think it depends on your own, like, theory of the world and how it works. It's like when we read a really good saga, like a really long, good story, and you're like, "How dare the author kill off all my favorite characters?" And
Yeah.
it's because they literally were not important, the story was important.
Yeah.
And getting us to this point or whatever the thing was, like, that's what was important, not these individual players. They were a part of it, what they did set off a chain reaction of events, but they specifically, like, once their job was done, like, it didn't matter, or these casualties, they're just that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we as humans have empathy.
Mhm.
We don't like that. That does not feel good to say, like, even people who practice Christianity and they're like, "Oh, no, like, my favorite person died," and then someone's like, "Well, it was God's will." You're like, "If you
Mhm.
don't get the fuck out my face, nobody likes to hear that." But, like, does the universe or the end all be all, the grand decision maker, do does it really care about individual people, or does it just care about the plan following through? Because let's say, because it also, even if we're talking about, like, destiny or whatever, if the grand plan calls for rhinoceros to become extinct, I don't know, 'cause I don't wanna use people like if the grand plan calls for that, and Jim Bob's job was to get out there and kill all the rhinos, whatever the case may be, and Jim Bob wakes up and is like, "I love rhinos, and I will not do it. I'm gonna exercise my free will." The grand plan might be like, Bet, no problem, Jim Bob. Let's get you out the way because this
Mhm.
still needs to happen. Fire off the next person." Joe Jim. Joe Jim will come in. Will kill
Word.
all you know what I'm saying? Like, the plan, I don't think the grand plan really cares about our individual desires that much. It's just like, and maybe that's why it's like, if you along with the plan, it's open. Things will
Yeah.
happen. You against my plan, you're gonna have a hard time. Maybe that.
No, I mean, there is a like philosophy. I can't remember the official term for it, but it's essentially like the careless writer, And it's kind of like there's a writer, there's an author to the story. And again, it's like you talked about with your favorite author, where it's like, why did you just forget about this character? Why did you introduce us to this
Mhm.
character and then you never developed their story? And it's like kind of like the universe is this careless author, where it's like, again, it has this grand
Mhm.
theme and it invents stuff, but because it's an author, it's not perfect. And so they have half scheme ideas. They have half these, and then all of a sudden, when you, especially when you like
Mm.
listen to interviews with authors, and they're like, originally this was supposed to be, a story about magicians. I don't know how we got the story about magical weasels. It just kind of turned into that. That's where spirit wants to take me, type of thing. You're like, what? But it's like
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
kind of how they explain the universe being, where it's like, again, I have this grand idea, and so, yeah, sometimes I
Mhm.
introduce people and I introduce characters and I never really develop their story. You don't know what happened to this character over here. And unfortunately, some of us are those
Mhm.
characters. That was just like, I don't know.
Mhm.
It didn't
Mhm.
seem like I was
Mhm.
going somewhere, and it really seemed like I was being set up for greatness. And then, now I just
Mhm.
be fucking off. And now the universe is doing this
It's
brand
made me
thing.
think about it makes me think about how people talk about ideas and creativity, and how like I do believe like certain ideas are just meant to be born. And so like when they're out there in the ether, like la la la, someone should invent microphones.
Mhm.
And hey, come tap 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 you on the shoulder. And that person's like, I got a lot going on right now. Okay, I don't have time to think about new inventions. That's a great idea. And when I have time, I'm gonna get around to it. And it's like, no, microphones need to exist right now,
Yeah.
this year. You're not up for the task, you're doing something? Cool. I'm gonna go tap someone else. The idea goes and it's like, I'm gonna go tap someone else on the shoulder
Oh,
who might be
word.
ready.
Word.
And they'll get the benefit of inventing a microphone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, because isn't that how the telephone worked? Like originally, or was it telephone or electricity? One of those inventions. I don't know. I learned it off Bob's Burgers, if I'm being honest. But one of those inventions, like it was two people that had something similar. And then one of them, I want to feel like it was
Not
Thomas
George Jefferson,
Edison.
girl.
He was the one that was stealing everybody's ideas. And anyways, he ended up like he got his patent first, and his was like the worst one. And it was, but the other person was like an alcoholic. The other person was like fucking off. And so it's
Mhm.
just like, all right, well, we have these two competing thoughts, and this one's way better, but you're not listening to the plan. All right, so now we're gonna do this. The Edison
Mhm.
company. We're gonna go with this. And that's what we're gonna do. I
Mhm.
I agree with that. I do. I mean, there's so many theories. Like I have tattooed
Mhm.
on my right hand. One of my tattoos says Deus ex machina,
Mhm.
and it comes from like Greek tragedies, Greek plays, or it's really a literary plot device where
Mhm.
it talks about how it basically means like the plot twist. It
Mhm.
basically means like there is an author, and usually what you see happens is this hero of the story or the protagonist, they are in this situation where you're like, okay, well, yeah, and that's the end. They're gonna die. That's
Mhm.
that's what's gonna
Mhm.
happen. And the author just all of a sudden decides, fuck it, I'm gonna save them. And there's no way to save them. That's literally what it
Mhm.
means. It's a literary plot device where you're like, there's no reason this should go on. And the author just decides, nah, I'm gonna save them. There's gonna be this plot twist. And
The show got renewed for another season, and they're
yeah,
like, "And he came back from the dead."
yeah. And you're
Like,
just
wait,
like,
what?
y'all just changed the whole rules of the universe. They're not that was the whole thing of him dying by the
Yeah.
by the dragon knight sword. It's the sword that can't be reversed. What do you mean he
Mhm.
came back from the dead?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's what it means. And I have that tattooed on because I feel like I have so many examples of that in my life of just like things that was just like that was not supposed to happen. And
Mhm.
I will say honestly, going back to my original story, I do feel like maybe kind of going back to the careless author, where again, it's just somebody kind of creating shit and does not care about the minor off people as much as you said so much the plot. But I also think that's why we have so many plots, especially 2025, 2024, where you're like, this shit wasn't supposed to be able to happen. What do you mean?
Mhm.
And I feel like
Mhm.
that's the timeline we're in now, where it's just lots of stuff that you're just like, either this has never been done before.
Mhm.
How is this a thing that's happening? You look at the US, even though if you really look at the falling of all major empires,
Yeah.
like that's exactly how the end of major empires feel.
Yeah.
Us being like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. But I do think the last couple of years, that's what it's felt like, where it's just things
Mhm.
happening that were just
Mhm.
like you see it on all the time on the universe. What timeline am I on? Because we're just having these major plot twists happen all the time. And I'm bringing it up to say, like, that to me kind of feels like, yeah, is there really free will? Or will the universe just change what it
Mhm.
wants at a
Mhm.
whim and there's nothing we can do about it? Because at least for me, that's how it's been feeling.
I think well, I think on some level you might be allowed like a side quest here and there. A little free will on the
Some of
side.
us, some
As
of us.
some of us, as long as it doesn't interfere with the greater scheme of things, I think you're allowed a little side quest here.
You know what I think also sucks about that though is that
Mhm.
sometimes the greater scheme of things does not mean like you are the hero or you are some major
Oh, no.
important. Like it's no,
Oh, no.
you do need to do this thing, but it's not like your name is going to get written in history for doing this thing. Like it
Mhm.
might just be you are going to be the great great grandma
Mhm.
of this amazing person that's going to save the earth, and they just need you there so they can be like, yeah, a
Yeah.
black woman started my bloodline. Like that was all you was.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah. You were just meant to have that baby, and then that was it, and going about your life. You get to just frolic around, do some side quests. We don't know.
We don't know. Well,
But
so
it's like
mhm.
I was just gonna say, it's like there's so many layers to again the question of free will. Because even if you're like, okay, the universe, blah blah blah. Then after that, we have like nature and nurture, like what's in our DNA, how we're
Yeah,
actually taught, and then you have what is society trying to influence me to do.
yeah.
There's like so many layers. Um, I want to say attacking your right to free will. Do you even have do you have a right to free will?
Girl, I and it's frustrating too because again, going back to the like I hate when people say everything happens for a reason because there's some things that it was like, well, that was a shitty ass reason. Like, I
Mhm,
don't know,
mhm,
like there's certain things again, I go back to not even just in my own personal life for sure, but in the world at large where I was like, there wasn't a kinder, gentler way for us to learn that. Like, did it have to be trauma? Did it have to? Like, if you can make me learn through trauma, or if you can make the world evolve through pain, why couldn't you just program us to also evolve through love? Like, why couldn't we be vicarious lovers? Like, why couldn't we be like, oh, the Mars used to have people, it don't no more. We should stop polluting the planet. Like, why couldn't we just like pick up on it that way? Why do we have to learn through greed and corporation and capitalism? Um, and
because we're
so
not learning. That's
are not
wrong.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of us, yeah, most of us are not learning. And I think
Mhm,
it goes back to kind of what you have written here about determinism. Like everything has a cause, including our
mhm,
thoughts and all these things. And so all of it feels so gloomy. And I think it's why I hate talking about free will because I feel
mm,
like at the end of it, I get very gloomy because even if it's like, okay, well, if everything has a cause, there's always a reason. It's just like, okay, but what about for those things where it's just really shitty reasons?
mm,
It's like I think about I don't know why this is coming to mind, but I'm thinking about Olivia Benson, Law and Order, right? And so
mhm,
a big part of like her whole character development is that her mom was, I think, like a professor. She got raped and then turned to alcoholism and
mhm,
all this stuff. And
mhm.
that's why she works with special victims and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, could it not have just been a woman like other women should not be raped? We should not be handled this way. Like, why
Mhm,
does the thing that
mhm,
motivated me has to be trauma? And I think again, when you go back to, and not to say there aren't women or people who aren't like that, who are just like, no, this
mhm,
is wrong. And I don't want to deal with that. And so let's help others. I think the issue I have when we go back to it, especially when we talk about the case for determinism, is that it leads back a lot of times to very bleak and gloomy things. And like going back
mhm,
to one of your original questions, which is, well, why do we need to believe in free will? And it's because I think if you look at the case for there is no free will, it kind of feels bleak. It kind of feels like, well,
mhm,
I just got to do this thing. And so all these horrible things happen so I can do this thing. And that is the cause. And so apparently there's something inherent in me or inherent in human nature that only learns through pain and trauma. Versus
Mhm.
with free will, it's like by happenstance. This good thing can
Mhm.
just happen.
Mhm. I think you're right. Yeah, we if without it, we I guess would just be hopeless. So free will gives us hope. I think that's our
Yeah, yeah. We have very little evidence arguing for free will, but, the bright
but
side.
darn it, we gotta have it somewhere in there for hope. So get out there and exercise your free will today. Put your shoes like on the. I think you have to practice it in small ways, and like maybe it builds up.
Mhm.
Put your shoes on the wrong feet tomorrow. Wear two different shoes, different. Like I think about one of my friends, like she wore like two different earrings one day, just like randomly. She was just like, because I can. Because I realized that I don't have to wear a matching pair of earrings. And sometimes you just got to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think about sometimes too of like, especially early in our podcasting days, we used to talk a lot about different people, famous people who like got their lucky breaks later in life through random things.
Mhm.
I can't remember who it is. There's an actor who was like 30s doing, and he's like an A-list actor. I can't, my memory is shot, y'all.
Samuel Jackson didn't get his start till a lot later in life.
I don't think it was him though, but it was like someone who was a cab driver.
Mhm.
And, like,
Mhm.
somebody heard him speaking, and he was like, "Hold on, let me get you my card," type of thing. And I think having those little stories of people who are just like, "Yeah, no, I went to eat breakfast, and I just was talking loud," and they were like, "Oh, I love your voice. Let me give you this card." And so things like that, I think, give you hope because it's just like, no, I kinda when you hear about people like, "One day, I just decided to wear my shoes, mix match." And then I ran to a guy, he was like, "I have never met a woman who wears her shoes mixed match, and that's my husband." You hear about these random stories and you're just like, "Oh, okay, yes. So maybe if I blah, blah, blah," and it gives you hope. And so I like those little stories. Unfortunately, if you think of too long about it, though, it also kind of leads back to, "Oh, you're always meant to do that. There's a reason you had a strong urge. You never had a strong urge to wear red and blue shoes on different dailies. You specifically had the strong urge to do it that day." Essentially, like the problem with that is if you think about it too hard, it kind of feels also like, but did something lead me? Like, was it really
Yeah.
just I randomly? Where it's like I got this urge. Because a lot of times when we talk about free will, a lot of times it starts with I just randomly got this urge to blah blah. Then was it really free will?
Then was it? Yeah. I think if we spend too much time on this question, we'll implode. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't think we're meant to think about it that much. And then also, I guess thinking about like we need to feel like we have the option. I think about people they like we should teach resiliency or even being like trauma informed and stuff like that. One of the big factors always like choice. Choice is a very big deal when it comes to building resiliency, but also making people feel safe and secure
Mhm.
in like small ways. When we feel like we have choice, we or some level of control, even in the most minute ways, we feel better, feel safer.
I
Um,
agree.
and so maybe that's it. It's by design that we're led to believe that we have free will.
Yeah.
So we don't self-destruct.
I 1,000% agree with that. I feel like again, it's an anti self-destruct kind of feature. Even as you're talking, I was thinking to myself, like, also as like clinicians, we kind of teach you do have free will. Just because this is the way you've always thought doesn't mean this is the way you always have to think. You can change your mind, you can
Mm.
change your practice.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
there's some of it. And I think the idea of free will is good for you, whether it's real or
Mhm.
not. But I'm also a
Mhm.
person who's not a big believer of like, do I have to know there's a God? Do I have to know? I don't have to know. So for me, it changes nothing because my moral, I think for a lot of
Mhm.
people is, well, if there's a God, it can tell me how to act. So my morals aren't dependent on others. My morals are, this is what I think is good. So me believing in a higher power doesn't change anything because this is what my ethics are. These are what my morals are, regardless of what
Right.
any scripture tells me. And so I'm going to act in these ways
Yeah.
regardless. And when we're talking about things like that, the same thing with like free will. And because of that, I don't need to know if there's a God or not. If there is one, that's great. I'm not going
Mhm.
to argue against it. But if there is not one, that's okay. I'm not going to argue for it. And I guess that's how I
Mhm.
feel about free will. Like the idea of it, I think is necessary because I think it
Mhm.
does help to know that things can change. And I think we need that.
Mm.
We need to know that
Mhm.
there's idea that things don't have to be the way they are. But whether that's true or not, I'm not gonna fret myself about it. I feel like
Yeah.
trying to find the yes or no to that question is more harmful for me
Mhm.
than it is to simply let the idea be out there
Mhm.
and operate within however I've already managed to grasp that idea. Does that make sense? I feel like I said it in the most fluffiest of abstracts of ways.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yes. And on that note, I feel like that's a really good part for us to end on. So, whether or not we actually have free will, I think we can agree that spending too much time thinking about it is probably not good for the human condition. So,
Word, word.
so that's all we have for now, guys.
Be sure to like and follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy. We'll have a new episode for you guys next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.